Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're pulling back the curtain on a completely invisible, highly advanced machine operating right above your head in literally every single Major League Baseball stadium. If you've watched hundreds of games, you've probably completely missed this massive technological infrastructure hiding in plain sight. But I promise you, by the end of our time together, you'll never look at a baseball broadcast the same way again.
Think about the last time you went out to a game, or even just watched a packed stadium on TV. As the camera pans up toward the roofline and the catwalks, there are these small housings tucked around the stadium. Have you ever actually noticed them? Probably not. But every single pitch you watch is secretly being measured by these hidden cameras, tracking the baseball down to a mind-blowing sixth of an inch.
Now, you might be thinking, those cameras are just there for flashy TV replays, right? Nope, this isn't some broadcast gimmick. This invisible engine is literally the system that modern baseball quietly runs on. It's the beating heart of the sport today, completely shifting everything from how we understand statistics to the actual officiating on the field. Okay, so let's dive right into the core of this machine and talk about the Hawkeye camera network. You might have heard of Hawkeye. It's the exact same tracking tech originally built to make line calls in tennis, but here in baseball, the 12-camera setup is incredibly specialized. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. 7 of these cameras, which MLB tags as yellow, are totally dedicated to tracking player movement. That's your fielders, base runners, and yep, even the umpires. The other 5 cameras, the red ones, have one job and one job only: lock onto the pitched ball's flight path from the exact millisecond it leaves the pitcher's hand.
To really wrap our heads around the power of this system, we have to talk about speed. Following a massive league-wide upgrade in 2023, those 5 red ball-tracking cameras now capture an astonishing 300 frames every single second. 300! That is triple the amount of frames they used to shoot, giving us this constant, rapid-fire stream of time-stamped position dots all along the ball's arc.
And it's the sheer speed that gives the system its unprecedented precision. I mean, think about it. It takes less than half a second for a blazing fastball to actually reach home plate. But because these cameras are firing 300 times a second, they can reconstruct a pitch's exact spin rate, measure its precise velocity, and pinpoint its exact location with stunning accuracy multiple times over, all within that tiny fraction of a second. So what does this all mean for us watching at home? Let's take a look at how this data powers real-time stats. How exactly does that raw, overwhelming camera data connect directly to your living room? Well, the answer is Statcast, Major League Baseball's official stat engine. Since 2020, this exact Hawkeye infrastructure has powered the whole shebang, meaning human stopwatches, guesswork, and those rough estimates, totally a thing of the past. Everything we see is now driven by a constant, invisible measurement of literally everything happening on the diamond.
So every single time a graphic flashes on your screen during an at-bat showing a blistering exit velocity of 108 miles per hour or a sprint speed of 29 feet per second, that is actually this camera network calculating complex physics in near real time. And remember those 7 yellow cameras we talked about? Because they're constantly reconstructing player movement as 3D wireframes, the system can measure entirely new metrics that just did not exist before. We're talking a fielder's exact route efficiency in the outfield or a runner's explosive acceleration right out of the batter's box.
It's pretty wild to look at how rapidly this system evolved. In 2020, the Hawkeye infrastructure was installed to drive Statcast. By 2023, we got that massive 300 frames per second ball tracking upgrade. But then, in 2026, the tech took a giant leap. It evolved from a pure statistics generator into an active refereeing tool that actually fundamentally changes the rules on the field.
And that brings us to the absolute biggest change in the modern game: challenging the umpire.
Starting with the 2026 season, MLB rolled out the Automated Ball Strike System, or ABS for short. Now, a really common misconception here is that ABS means full-on robot umpires. Actually, scratch that. It doesn't mean that at all. The human umpire is still right there behind the plate making every call. ABS is really a player-driven challenge system. So, if a pitcher, catcher, or batter thinks a call was incorrect, they can literally just tap their helmet to challenge it. And here's where it gets super interesting. The technology doesn't just use some generic one-size-fits-all box to judge the pitch. Instead, the system uses a highly personalized strike zone that is mathematically scaled to each specific batter's exact height. When a player initiates a challenge, the system takes the pitch's tracking data and compares it perfectly against that batter's totally personalized zone.
And the speed of this massive data engine is just mind-blowing. When a player taps their helmet to challenge, the system instantly analyzes that 300 frame per second data, checks it against the personalized strike zone, and flashes the final objective result right up on the stadium scoreboard. And it does all of this in well under 15 seconds. No way, right?
Now, you might be wondering, wouldn't players just be challenging every single pitch? Well, early 2026 data shows something really fascinating. Players actually use it incredibly sparingly. They're only challenging a tiny fraction, around 1 to 2% of all pitches. But get this, when they do tap that helmet, they are highly accurate, successfully overturning the human umpire's original call roughly half the time.
So, how exactly is this invisible safety net changing the way baseball plays out on the field?
For one, it is fundamentally shifting decades-old behaviors on the diamond. For generations, catchers have perfected the subtle art of pitch framing. You know, shifting their glove just slightly to trick the human eye and make a borderline pitch look like a clear strike. But that entire art form is losing its value against ABS. Why? Because the cold, hard, exact tracking data simply cannot be tricked by a clever catcher. It's also drastically reshaping the sport's arguments. Just look at the downward trend here. Historically, a huge share of ejections stemmed directly from disputed ball and strike calls. But as we've moved from the pre-Hawkeye era through the earliest Statcast era and now into the 2026 ABS era, those ejections are just dropping off significantly year over year. What used to result in a manager storming out of the dugout, explosive shouting matches, and dirt kicked all over home plate is now settled cleanly, quietly, and objectively in under 15 seconds. And it's all done before the pitcher even winds up for the next throw. The heated argument is simply replaced by undeniable data.
Baseball has always been a sport absolutely obsessed with numbers. We know this, but they have quietly leveled up, building literally the most precise number tracking system in all of professional sports to prove it. So, for sure, the next time you watch a game, take a second to look up at the catwalks. Those little cameras aren't just decoration. They are actually deciding the game.
And that leaves us with this final thought to wrap up our explainer today. As this incredible data engine successfully removes human error from the strike zone, and as century-old arguments simply fade away into history, what cherished baseball tradition do you think this technology will disrupt next? Think about it. Thanks so much for diving into this with us, and we'll catch you next time.